Radio. It's a beautiful Tuesday right here in Galveston County, and I'm excited. Thank you for taking the time to tune in wherever you're watching from. Share this out. Remember, you can always go back and listen to past episodes, or this one will be available shortly. You can go on Apple Podcasts. You can also go on Spotify or anywhere else that you listen to your podcast. Search Just Live Well. You can also search Dr. Chapa, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. There's so many things you can search, and you can find that. Dr. Chapa, good morning. How you doing today?
Good morning, Gardy. It's great to be on the show this morning. As usual, I love, just sharing wisdom of knowledge in the realm of nutrition. Like, I get excited about nutrition. I look around and I see what people eat day in and day out, and still am shocked at the confusion of real food versus fake food. And I constantly working with my kids even, hey, is that a sometimes food and all the time food? What are you eating there? Or is that a never food, right? I mean, there's even a never category. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important that we just always are aware. And the more we become aware, I was talking to a gentleman last week, and he wants to kind of do this health thing without supplementation. And I think that's grand and great. And I think that we should all aspire to that. Except that, he raises chickens and never eats any of his own chicken eggs.
Why?
Too busy, he says.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, what do you do? I ask. And he says, well, I just pull into the nearest fast food joint. Why? I ask, and he goes, because that's all I got time for. And that's what oftentimes we get caught in this place where we know we should be going back to the soil. We know that we should be looking to, nature for its solutions, but we oftentimes get caught in the busyness of life. The classic holiday hustle and bustle. Right? And that rat race of time never ceases to relinquish its grip. And one of the things that I had to try to help this guy understand was that, look, you can't change the world around you as you desire until you first start looking inward and change yourself. You've got to be following that passage, Romans 12:1, one of my favorites. I beseech thee, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service. God doesn't even ask the extraordinary. He doesn't ask for you to do something outlandish. He just wants you to do, a reasonable service and taking care of your body through His mercy and grace. And offering up, the vessel you have for His glory and for the glory of His work in your life and others. Because you're making a difference. Whether you're sick right now with symptoms or diagnosed disease, or you're healthy as a lark. It doesn't matter where you're at in the spectrum. No matter what your age, you're making an impact. And the reality, though, is are you making the impact that you want to make? We want people to get it that food is medicine, and we should be looking to the soil and to nature. But oftentimes we just don't know where to begin, or we got to figure out in our quote-unquote busy, bad habit-laden life, what can we do today to shift course, to change the trajectory, so that we're moving onward, upward, goodward, and Godward in a different direction. Because you can't do the same old thing and expect a different result, can you?
Right.
What do they call that?
Insanity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And insanity, it's kind of a cliche phraseology today, and we don't appreciate it from the same, when you say it the first time, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a really good one, and I need to, live by that. Now we say that too often, and we don't appreciate that truth, but it is an eternal truth. And so where did I have that gentleman start? With just 1 degree of change. Hey, how about we eat 4 eggs every day? It takes 7 minutes to cook up some eggs and clean the pan, mm-hmm. and eat the eggs. And then you're getting all those wonderful proteins and those good healthy fats and that healthy brain food and nourishment from the choline in the center of the egg. And those amino acids can then start restructuring, regenerating your tissues, and the blood sugar will be balanced first thing in the morning when your stomach is most active and wanting to eat well. And it wants you to eat well, like a king first thing, or a queen first thing in the morning. And we have to just get back to, hey, I get it that you want to get back to the soil and back to nature, and you don't want to ever take a supplement. God never intended us to take a bunch of pills. But we do have this little problem. We all live, I believe, west of Eden, right? And we're not in the garden anymore. And so we're toiling with the land. We're learning how to navigate the pitfalls. We've got a lot more chemicals that we deal with day in and day out. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more bugs that are getting fed because of a poor quality, adulterated diet. Some people call it the standard American diet. I take that SAD and call it the sad American diet. And we try to help people see that food is medicine, but until you learn the difference between never foods, sometime foods, and real foods, you have to incorporate healthy, productive supplementation or detoxification or some sort of program to help drive that biochemistry in a direction that helps you get a handle. And it's kind of like once you get the traction and once you learn the rules, now you can start leaning towards food, and you're not leaning towards artificial ingredients that we call food.
You know, last week I think you talked about not knowing the rules to the game, so you're trying to play the game, you don't know how it works. That's not really any fun.
No, it's not. It's not fun. Matter of fact, it's frustrating. And when we're frustrated, we oftentimes throw in the towel. And one of the things that we want to be is your number one health and wellness resource for what it is that you're doing to get healthy, stay healthy for you, your family, your loved ones, people that are important to you in this trying time of immunity crisis, in this trying time of toxicity where we're exposed to chemicals and the onslaught of fake food day in and day out. We have to navigate that. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean you're never going to indulge in those foods. It just means that you're going to indulge them less frequently, and that you're going to be reaching to real food, real nourishment more often than not. And then when you have trouble, then, man, we're just plucking weeds out of your garden of health, not, trying to dig up bushes or pull an oak tree out. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happens is we fall into these patterns where we don't incorporate these healthy habits for our lifetime. And then we have teeth problems in our, as we get older. Then we have gum problems, or then we have high blood pressure problems, or we have high cholesterol problems, and we have immune crises where we're catching bugs right, left, and Sunday. And I'm constantly trying to help people see, hey, it's your life, it's your health, your choice. You have a choice to make. You can choose the sometimes foods or the all the time foods. You can get into the never foods, but understand there's a consequence and a reward. Which do you rather? What do you want, Gardy?
I think I'd rather have the reward. The nice thing than have a consequence.
You mean you don't like suffering?
Not today.
I'm with you. I think that oftentimes if there was a way to navigate the suffering, I would much rather go that route. And that's kind of what we're after at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. And, we have a baking class coming up, and that class is actually, where we're teaching people how to cook without refined sugar.
Seems like it'd be difficult.
It seems as such until you learn the rules of the game. And once you start realizing that, well, this is the good healthy substitute. Like when we make gluten-free pancakes for our kids, when it calls for milk, what do we use? Almond milk, coconut milk, rice milk. We use oat milk. You can use all kinds of different milks that are dairy-free if you have a dairy sensitivity, which most people do, because dairy is adulterated. It's beat up. It's not the same stuff. It's homogenized and pasteurized and chemically altered, and it mutated proteins, and it's just not something that is a classified food. It's on my no-no list, never foods, because it's in the top 2 most common food allergens, irritants in the GI tract destruction pathway. Mm-hmm. And so we get people off that. gluten-free. The Pamela's gluten-free baking mix, real easy to make. There's plenty of good ones out there. That just happened to be one that we made recently. And but when it calls, for 1 egg, I drop 2 eggs in there because I want that little extra protein for the kiddos. I'll even add some of our complete paleo powder to it, which is a tasteless amino acid profile of proteins. I mean, it's just like a bone broth type protein, and basically it's the amino acid profile of mother's milk that we're putting in it, just a scoop, and it's just enough. And then we put a little extra butter to fatten it up, and we put a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of vanilla, and it's already sweet. Mm-hmm. At this point now, I find that the kids gravitate to the honeys and the syrups less often, doing it that way. And I watch them. They don't actually ask for much in the form of syrup. They'll just eat the pancake as it is because it tastes good, and it's very filling and very nourishing. And so they are very pleasantly happy with a treat like that, and they feel like, hey, eating healthy foods can still be fun and be enjoyable, and they don't realize that it's a better alternative than the standard sad American diet that people are reaching for, that has refined flours or enriched flours, which basically means they have robbed all the good stuff and replaced the good stuff with synthetic garbage that is ultimately going to hurt your nutrient density load, not support it. It's not going to lift the health curve. It's going to drop it and flatten it out and make it where your body's not moving forward, ultimately going into decline. And there is symptom land ahead. We don't want to go to symptom land. Mm-mm. We want to go onward, upward, goodward, and Godward. We want to head towards Oz. We want to feel the vim, vigor, and vip that food should give us whenever we eat, and nourishing, healthy foods. And I mean, think about it. Have you ever eaten like a real colorful, salad? Especially you can maybe relate to maybe on a detox, and then you go, not only was that good, it was refreshing, and by golly, I feel good. My body feels good. My brain feels good. And I think that it's just really cool to watch and see where we are in the grand scheme of health and food, and getting people to wake up to this idea. And I just want to say I'm excited, because if you're tuning in today, you're in for a treat, because we're going to start with some basics. And so here we go. I love talking about water. Water has been one of those helpful tools for me so that I can figure out where a person is on the hydration level. Most people come in and they're dehydrated. They don't drink enough water. They don't know how much water to drink. So we have a general recommendation so that it matches weight requirement. And so when I look at weight requirements, and I say not all water, and I look at you reaching for your water.
You said water.
Right. That's right. It's a nice healthy trigger. Of course it should. Of course it should. And you should. One of the easiest ways, by the way, to have water is to have it available. That way you can be chugging a lug on it all throughout the day, and you're not trying to catch up by drinking a liter of water all at once. But 1 liter of water per 50 pounds of body weight. And so we always start with the basics. We always look at, are you putting in enough fluids in the day? And most people aren't, because they go, well, I'm putting in my coffee. Yeah, but what else are you putting in that coffee? They put a lot of sugar. A guy was telling me yesterday that he puts in 2 full sugar cubes in his coffee. And I think that's like 2 teaspoons of sugar. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, man, that is a truckload of sugar. And ultimately, sugar, just like in the 2 teaspoons of sugar, can paralyze your immune system for 8 hours. So when a person drinks a soda pop and a cookie, their immune system is crashed for 6 to 8 hours, and they're more susceptible during that time. That's why after the holidays, or even during the holidays, when people are eating sweet treats. I went to the bank last week and dropped off some a deposit, and I look over and I said, "Hey, whose birthday is it?" There was this gigantuan bouquet of not flowers, but balloons and lollipop candies filled full of chocolate and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, whose birthday is it? She goes, oh, it's so-and-so's. I said, well, happy birthday. And I'm just thinking, look at all that healthy junk food they gave you. They celebrated your birthday and poisoned you at the same time, and you said thanks. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, that's what's happening. And she's not drinking enough water, guaranteed. She's not putting in the right fluids, because that morning she started her day with sugar water. That afternoon she's going to have some sugar water. And that evening she's going to have some sugar in her tea. I mean, it's all day long. I had a food log come in last week for a 6-year-old who's, Capri Sun is the liquid of choice, and it's just a basically sugar water. It's not healthy for us, these juice boxes and stuff that we get into. And I'm not picking on that company. That's just what was on the list. There was every candy you could imagine. I was befuddled to see how much sugar was on the list, and I thought to myself, we've got to start teaching the basics again, going back to a reminder that there are no foods, there are sometimes foods, and there are all the time foods. And we've got to help people see that on our red diet, on our yellow diet, on our green diet list, we have all the time foods. And we also on the on the yellow and the green diet, we have some safe sometimes foods. And we help people see at the bottom, it's clear as crystal. How much water should you be drinking? 32 ounces per 50 pounds of body weight. And I find that even when I make that recommendation, people never get to that full capacity because it's work to drink that much water. I don't actually think we always need that much water. That's just a starting point until we get you hydrated and we get you cellularly electrified so that we get those cells to communicate better. And that brings us to my conversation today on salt. And so I brought some of our premier pink salt in, which is a Hawaiian Australian pink salt, and it is a fantastic sea salt that is chocked full of 86 additional naturally occurring minerals and micronutrients that aren't in most salts. This is sun-dried, it's not processed, and you can have this even if you have high blood pressure. You can have this no matter what your disease process is, and it won't inflame your joints or swell you up because it doesn't act like a chemical that most people are consuming. Mm-hmm. When you consume table salt is poison. It is an aggressive erosion product. This that we've got to get it out of our diet. Let's see if I can find where it says in this little book. I thought it was really neat how they worded it, and but they said it was like a aggressive corrosive agent that literally destroys the cells when you eat table salt. So if you're still sucking down table salt, we want to break you of that habit quick, fast, in a hurry, especially when looking at the possibilities of what kind of salt are you putting in, because not all salts are created equal. And I'm not finding it right off the cuff, unfortunately. But oh nope, there it is. Common table salt. That's funny. My finger is right on it, and I should have just gone with it. Common table salt is an aggressive cellular poison, which additionally burdens our organs of excretion. That's our GI tract, organ of excretion. That's our skin, organ of excretion. That's our kidneys, organ of excretion. And it is amazing that we are sucking down table salt at the level that we do. The consequences of table salt is very acidic. It swells our tissues up. It causes excessive fluid in body tissues and organ tissues, and this causes things like cellulite. Find me people that want that. Nobody. People pay big dollars to get that out of there. And so this is what's happening is we're being told by today's Western philosophy that we shouldn't ever consume salt. But in historical times, salt was used for payment to the Roman guards to the Roman soldiers. They were paid. That's why they used to say, "Oh, that guy's worth his salt." And if they ever found salt mines or salt areas, they would guard it as treasure. It was very valuable. So that's where they get the word salary from the word, from paying these Roman soldiers in salt. And so we have to be mindful that salt's been around for thousands of years, and we are underutilizing it astronomically. We are missing an opportunity because when we are not consuming salt, there's also historical data around people that have gone 30 days without salt and died. Like it is a crucial electrical element. It is not a nutrient that breaks down like a protein into amino acids. And so one of the things that we find is like when starches break down into what? Sugar, right? Fats break down into essential fatty acids. Proteins break down into amino acids. Salt is salt. Crystallized salt doesn't change its molecular structure. When dissolved in water, it's still salt. It's still sodium chloride and everything else that God intended to be in there. There are nutrients in there there's 86 other valuable nutrients in salts that we don't even fully know its impact on our bodies. We just know it's vitally important. As I was doing this little salt study, I kind of got to thinking, in Jesus' day, how often, did he drink water?
Every day, it would seem like.
We would imagine he did, but there was also times when it wasn't like convenient, like for us just to walk over to
clean water,
faucet, right? He would have to go to the well, and he would find somebody, hopefully, because he never really toted draws and buckets and bowls to take care of his burden. He just depended in faith that the Lord would provide. And 9 times out of 10, probably, we see stories where there was somebody at the well, and they were, able to be used for nourishing the tribe, his posse, his council, his disciples. But I oftentimes wonder if when he was going, maybe a couple days where his water intake was low, I'd call that being dehydrated, maybe he was fine because he had salt in his food. He had a healthier version of salt back then than we have today. One of the things that was sad to me to learn that if you're buying salt, out of Pakistan, Poland, or Germany, and it says it on the label where it's from, like this one is, says it's an Australian and a Hawaiian pink salt. And when we look at that, we go, it's untreated. Oh, okay, that's nice. It comes from the Hardy Seas salts from cool, blue, unpolluted waters of the Australian Sea using solar evaporation via seawater, to bring about this, and sunshine to bring about this material. And so if maybe the salts, his body that he was taking in through his diet, he was able to hold water in the intracellular space. When we look at an in-body in our office, we look and evaluate people's intracellular and extracellular water. Why is that important? Because the intracellular is the efficiency of the cell. How effective is the cell able to communicate to its neighboring cell? That's cool. The extracellular is the toxic substances. If you've never done an in-body, you should come in the office. It is a very inexpensive test that gives us quick data points to see how well are your cells firing together. And in the nerve realm, we say nerves that fire together, wire together. In the cell realm, cells that work together thrive together. We want to see those cells communicate effectively all the days of your life. We don't want you to have this extracellular buildup, which is toxic cell waste, and then to see where we look at the extracellular water compared to your total volume of water, inside your body, and see it too high, because that means that your liver's congested. Your exit channels, your pathways of excretion are blocked up. That's your bowel. That's your your kidneys, that's your skin, that's your lungs. There's some blockade that is causing buildup, backup, and that congestion in the lines puts a great deal of stress on your lymphatic system where infection brews. And if we can keep the lymphatics clear and open, then we can find that we can, so that means we have an exit channel to leverage and use. We will get sick less often. Well, I thought it was vitamin C, Dr. Chapa. I thought it was vitamin D and zinc and all these other things that people are talking about. Yes, that's all true. You can't have, nothing is a standalone, but I think one of the things that we're seeing, that I'm seeing in practice, and I speak from my clinical experience, what my practice is teaching me and sharing with me and showing me with patient care. And one of the things that I see is that people are so dehydrated that we oftentimes initially have to build big programs for people. Well, one of my heart's desires is to figure out a way to build smaller programs for people that it makes it more like doable. It's more realistic. I've putting together some of the programs that I've built in the past, I've come to realize that some of the things that I do is maybe unreasonable to many people. It's unrealistic to most people. And that's okay. Not everybody wants what I want. I want to be 125, fully functional in spirit, mind, and body. So I have to make sure that I'm doing things today and planting my 125-year oak tree seeds today and watering those today. And I've always been doing that for the last, many years that I've been in practice. And so I would say in some juncture of time, I'm better at it than others. And but I'm always, tilling the land. I remember in the Bible where it talks about a gardener was out working the fields, and he sees the grapevine withering, and his little worker bee goes, no, don't throw it away. I know, I can see the look in your eye, because he was about to tell him, if it's not producing fruit, toss it, because now it's just sucking up nutrients out of the ground that could be going to these other grapevines. And he goes, let me work the ground around it, and I'm going to bring it back to life. Why he had this, desire is beyond me, but who knows, for whatever reason, the analogy, metaphor, story that Jesus was sharing in this moment about working the land, that you have to work your spiritual ground, you have to work your nutritional ground, you have to work your financial ground, you have to work your legacy ground. You have fields right in front of you. Are you paying attention to them? And if you are paying attention to them, oftentimes you'll see good fruit coming from them. If you're not paying attention to them, you might have a case of the suddenlies, where you find yourself in a situation you're not overly excited about. And so I want, people to go back to the idea of, what are you doing today to impact tomorrow? So when we look at the salt game, salt, when put into our body, or our body does not need to metabolize salt in order for to enter our cells. It literally has the ability to just cross over. And once inside the cells, it draws water unto it, and it electrifies the cell. So a crystal of salt in water, they call it Sol, S-O-L-E, is created. If it's in the blood, it's called Sol. So it's just a term when salt mixes into solution. But it is still salt in solution. It just has a different name because it looks a little different. It's a liquefied form. That's why when we put salt in our drink, we see the crystals hit the bottom. We stir it, and then guess what? The crystals go away. But it's the salt is still there. The body fluids hold the same atomic structure, and so there's an energy exchange, whether in water or blood. And when the soul is created, it isn't water, and it's not sodium chloride. That the salt isn't necessarily absorbed or metabolized; it just is. And then, so I keep studying this, thinking, wow, okay, it just is. It's just an element. It's just a part of nature, but it just changes form. But once the water evaporates off, guess what happens? The salt remains. And there's an experiment that I saw on TikTok where there was, a kid talking to his dad and said, hey, you give me $20, and I always like how the kid is, getting his dad to give him money. But if you can figure out how to get the salt, off the. I think he poured salt on the table and gave him a napkin, and he wanted him to be able to pick up the salt on the napkin. And the trick is just you pour water on the napkin, and it pulls up the salt. So because it dissolves into it. But if you leave it there, the crystallized salt will just pop right back out. And I think that is just phenomenal. And because what we find is that the salt is an electrical element. It electrifies the cells. It doesn't necessarily nourish the tissues like we think it does. It hydrates us. It does something very unique in our bodies. And then when we're cremated, the ash left over is salt. And so there is this component of salt that we are just, now I don't know that I want to be eating like, dead carcass ash.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it is fascinating because the Bible has a story about that too. And that story goes when Lot's wife looked back on Sodom, he told anybody looks back, what's going to happen?
Turn to ash.
They're going to be turned to a pillar of salt.
Yeah.
And guess what she turned into? A pillar of salt. God is a God of His word. He means what He means, and we should count on that, right?
Something else, real quick. Talking about the Bible. That scripture came to me as you're just speaking all that stuff. Where we're called to be the salt and the light to the world, and I was just wondering, like, what does that mean? Especially, I guess, if they use salt to pay Roman, the guards, or that's where it comes from. I was just curious.
Also, how whenever it says, how can salt lose its saltiness? The reason it says that is because salt is salt, whether in solution or out of solution. So if salt loses its saltiness, it never was salt. So if we are to be salt and light, oh man, when you put salt, water, and light together, inside your body, it will build proteins. Build proteins from salt, water, and light. Is that how Jesus went 40 days and 40 nights? Have you ever thought about that? Like 40 days, 40 nights in the desert. It doesn't say that he had water. I've always assumed he had water, because, I've always thought, like, okay, the most important nutrient that we get is what?
I think it's water.
Air. Air is the most important.
Air. That's what I was going to say.
Air would be the most important.
Because you need that, like, from, like, minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
It's minutes,
or
right?
3 days for...
That's right. So
water.
the next then would be, theoretically, I think, would be water. I think it's like 4 days you can go without water before you start noticing massive symptom decline, or symptom increases. And the symptoms could be everything from dizziness to heart palpitations to dry skin, itchy skin, rashes. I mean, all kinds of stuff start happening, right? And then food, so I would assume food would be in the 40-day realm. So if you got 4 minutes, you got 4 days, you got 40 days. When you look at air, when you look at water, and you look at food. Sunlight is a very important, and that's free, by the way, still, thankfully, for a little bit longer. Who knows?
For now.
We'll
see.
It could change. I mean, you're so bright, Gardy, that you have yellow glasses and a yellowy shirt. I mean, you're just
I'm beaming.
You're beaming today. It's very glamorous and glorious, Mrs. Petticoat. It's glorious. And so but I think it's fascinating, the idea that when you put salt, water, and light together, it manufactures proteins in the body. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what if that's how it's done? When you have the right balance of salts in your body, and when we look at blood work, guys, we are looking for functional patterns. When we look at a sodium chloride level, and the range for medicine is like 135 to 146, we go, well, okay, that's for disease, right? And that big, broad span. Where's the functional pattern? Where's the symptom land to start? And we find that, it's 140 to 140, 140 to 146. We want to be a tighter window. Do you know how many times we see people's blood panel, whether it's sodium, whether it's potassium or whether it's chloride. I was almost said plutonium. I was like, wait a second, that's a wrong movie.
Yeah.
Potassium, not potassium, but potassium and chloride mixed. We see too often people's ratios are off, which then ultimately throws off the calcium, magnesium, phosphorus ratios. It alters your immune system yet again. I mean, it's just a chain of events. And it starts with something as simple as salts. You could take this Himalayan or a Himalayan salt, this Australian salt, this Mediterranean salt, and see that it's not out of Germany, it's not out of Pakistan, it's not out of Poland, and guess what? It's sun-dried goodness. And you could take a shot of it in the morning. You can have a shot of it in the evening before bed, and you can, again, rest assured it's not going to swell your joints because it's hydrating your cells, electrifying the cells, making the cells perform better, more effective. I do recommend this book, by the way. This is Water and Salt, The Essence of Life. I think that it has a lot of great, powerful nuggets of information. Like it says, if you just even read like the little excerpts, and it says the crystallized salt structure is electric and not molecular. So, and think about it. We've talked about this in the past. When we look at the sunshine is so powerful of an electrical, energy that it will burn us the closer we get to it, right? Or if you even just stay out in it at the beach too long, it burns you. Yeah. And so one of the things that we know about the sunshine is that it's not only a help, but it can also, in extreme situations, can hurt. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at the power of the sun, I think of we need some sort of ability to tone it down. Well, God knew that too. And what did he do? He created this idea of photosynthesis in plants. And so the plants are able to take the beating of the day-to-day sun, and they get what they get. They're planted. They don't get to get up and say, "Ooh, it's hot. I'm going to go in the backyard." You know what I mean?
Right.
They're kind of like, well, I got to deal with what I have. And when we then start eating these plants, it's chemical energy. It's the sunlight energy converted into a chemical that's brought into your body and remanufactured as an electrical pick-me-up, an electrical building block that activates, say, for your heart, the SA node, the AV node, that allows that electrocution of the heart to make it pump. Remember, your heart, in its 100,000 beats a day, in its 100,000 miles of cardiovascular track that it runs throughout each and every minute and second of the day, it doesn't care as much just like we don't want to go exercise, it doesn't get that choice. It doesn't beat because it wants to. It beats because it's electrocuted. It's told to, and it's the only cool muscle in the body that, when stimulated, it doesn't hypertrophy or grow. It literally stays about the same size unless there's a glitch in the matrix. So there has been cases where people's hearts grow too big, and that cardiomegaly creates a shortened lifespan. We don't want that for you, your family, or your loved ones. We want you to make sure that your heart is the size that it was designed to, about a little bit bigger than your fist. And so we look at this, due to the transformability, salt does not need to be metabolized by our body in order to be absorbed. Osmosis, the foundation of cell metabolism, is managed by salt. Without salt, we could neither think or act. Wow. Guys, how many people are walking around right now with brain fog?
Probably a lot.
A lot.
I hear it a lot.
A lot of people are walking around with brain fog, and they don't even know how to resolve it. What if it's as simple as salt? Had a patient coming in taking excessive amounts of nutrients, and they weren't getting any benefit from it. I started supplementing them with pink salt, and guess what happened? All of a sudden, their supplement started activating and working, and it changed their thinking patterns. They started having better recovery when they were in the gym. They came in, and when I first started working on them, I couldn't adjust them, and now whenever I adjust them, it's like they're 18 years old. and like an 18-year-old should adjust well, right? They haven't been on the planet long enough to screw themselves up. But, I mean, the sugar's doing a fair job. And interestingly enough, working them through many, many processes, I think we could have shortcutted things had we started with something as simple as salt. But how many people want to think better? How many people want to act better? You know, what if salt would help alleviate some of your cravings? I found once I've got my hydration levels up and my salt intake where it needs to be, which again, monitored via your blood, it's very easy to see, you know, crystal clear, sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium. We can see in your blood work panels that we run for our patients functionally, we can bring that pattern really tight and we can maximize your cell potency. And when we maximize cell potency, we electrify the cell like this talks about. And when we start electrifying the cells, we see better levels of communication. You know, I just, so another little quick nugget from this book, just because I think it's, again, just fascinating to get people's mind wrapped around simple. God is a God of simple truths. He's not a confusing God. He doesn't make things so complicated that we have to go scrape, you know, the bottom of a big blue well in order to get the right type of fat. You know, there's plenty of things in our local environments where we can be sustained in a healthy way. But our blood is soul. It is a mixture of salt and water and hemoglobin and iron and all these different nutrients that build it into what it is. And soul, not S-O-U-L, but S-O-L-E, identical to the primal ocean frequencies. Very interesting, you know. And our body should be approximately 67% water. Well, if it's like the ocean, it better be like the ocean. It shouldn't be out of balance. If your pool is out of chemical balance, what do we know?
If you're out of balance?
In the pool. Well, it turns green. Or I've been in people's pools that were so acidic that you felt dry within 5 minutes. It was like burning your skin almost. Or I've seen pools that were so out of balance the other way that you would get eye conjunctivitis. You would get eye infections.
So I will say, so my parents have a pool, so we had a pool at the house growing up, which was awesome. But my dad's like on it, so I don't ever know what it's like to be in a pool that's like not like perfect, whatever it's supposed to be.
And I would say that in that particular instance, that's fantastic. I mean, I would much rather be swimming in a pool that's been balanced than in a pool that is not in balance. And but at the end of the day, not everybody is on it. Like
not everybody's my dad is on it. Whatever he's doing, exactly what he needs to be doing at every minute of the day.
Table salt consists of sodium chloride, additives, and this is where things go awry, just like high fructose corn syrup, just like crystalline fructose. These adulterated sugars will kill you. Table salt will do the same thing. They has nothing to do with real, natural, holistic, electrical, elemental salt. This crystallized salt is not table salt. The stuff that when you see on the label that says, a product of Pakistan, a product of Germany, a product of Poland, it's no good. It's not as quality, and I can't, stand behind its therapeutic value. Now, the other little nugget about good, healthy salts, do you think you should cook with this, or do you put it on at the end of the meal?
Ooh.
Or before you eat it, at the end of the cook time?
So, I'm going to go ahead and say at the end of the cook time.
That's right. And so it will literally destroy its benefits if we cook it, and it alters its crystalline structure. When we look at Diamoto's work and we see when he started studying water and he would put it under a microscope, it has a certain frequency. It looks like a very beautiful snowflake, for example, as opposed to what you would imagine a blob of snot would look like under a microscope, something that is like filled full of contaminants. It doesn't look pretty. It's not ornate. It's not nice, pretty edges. It's just like a blob of mush, right? The heat can turn the frequency into and alter its into a blob of mush where it's not as electrically potent. So I don't believe that we're supposed to be cooking with our salt or having these dead salts added to all of our spices. We should be using stuff like this at the end of our meal. You should put 2 shakes and pray. 2 shakes and pray.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the habit, right?
It's just a good rule.
It's just a good rule.
I like
2
that.
shakes and pray.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another cool thing. Table salt is a dangerous cellular poison that the body tries to eliminate. It literally is a toxin that, when put in, tries to eliminate or store within an enormous expense of energy and effort. And this is something I tell a lot of patients often, is when your body is filled full of toxins, toxic elements are nothing more than something your body cannot use. And so if we can get your body to excrete it, which it should be able to, then we're good. But when it can't, and your body stores toxins deep in the cells, it can create, it comes with a cost. B vitamins are used up. Your immune system's calcium is used up. Zinc is used up. Your essential fatty acids are used up in order to house these toxic elements that your body cannot use and, unfortunately, cannot excrete. And so we want to make sure that we don't lose energy unnecessarily because we're putting in toxic substances. And yes, table salt is a toxic substance, no different than bad, nicotine, smoking, no different than alcohol. It is a poison that your body has a hard time dealing with on the regular. Remember, it's your life, your health, your choice. You get to choose what you're going to do with this information today. Are you going to apply it, 2 shakes and pray? Or are you going to go about what you normally do and just bypass simple wisdom that has been around for centuries? This is simple wisdom and the truth of how easy God has put this stuff together for us. And I think it's pretty awesome because I like simple. I like the concept. Keep it simple, silly.
Keep it simple, silly. That's
right,
what we said,
that's right. Natural salt is crucial for maintaining vital functions in our body. Well, I mean, I think I'd like to have vital functions in my body. How am I going to live to be 125 fully functional in spirit, mind, and body if I don't have vital functioning organ systems, right? I mean, I think it's just fascinating that we miss out on life because we missed out on simple truth that we did not apply over time. What do we say when you eat a candy bar a day? It's mistake colossal.
Yeah.
It's a very, very problematic thing because the old saying goes, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? A Hershey bar a day. Wait a second. That is not how you keep the doctor away. That sugar, that adulterated product will ultimately, long-term, you go from a quick sometimes food to a no-no food if you overindulge because it robs the body of other key ingredients. Again, not picking on them specifically, just in general, the idea of things that are laden with fake milk products and fake sugar products and adulterated sugar in milk products and processed at high heat temperatures that manipulate its frequency load in the body. Your body can only tolerate those things. Just like the salt, it's going to try to excrete it as a toxin, and it's going to do that as quickly as it possibly can. And so when we look at the type of salts that people are consuming, we want to make sure that they're consuming the right stuff because, again, I think this will hold your water in a more stable balance in your body, which we will see. We will see in the intracellular, extracellular in body, as well as the extracellular to total body water ratio on the in-body when we measure those. And if you're not getting that test done, you're missing a really easy way to evaluate where you're at in the spectrum. Of course, everybody wants to know their BMI. Of course, everyone wants to know their body fat. It's all on there. But I look at the cell efficiency. I look at the cell toxicity because ultimately that's going to change the protein mineral load in which drives healthy muscle metabolism, which is going to help your muscle metabolism go up, which is going to help your BMR go up, where you're burning, BMR being basal metabolic rate, where your BMR is going up with a healthy increase in skeletal muscle and healthier organ systems that aren't congested full of toxins, and your body internalizing all your B vitamins or internalizing all of your natural immunity for storage houses for toxicity, because your body can't get rid of it. So we always want to encourage you that when we work on people day in and day out, we're looking for simple solutions to help you navigate the complexity for which you find yourself in. Everybody has a story, and we want to hear that story. When you come into Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're going to take the time to listen to your story, and we're going to run some cool tests, and we're going to figure out where you are from an adrenal health perspective, where you are from a neurological perspective, where you are from a functional health perspective. Are you having symptoms that you weren't genetically born with? We want to turn over those stones so that we can see deeper into the tissues and figure out what we can do to help you live better instead of the disease state that you may find yourself in. And we don't want you to have diseases right now. I've seen patients with full-blown type 2 diabetes be able to get off of their medications and start living vibrantly again. I've seen people on out-of-control diabetic type 1 diabetes be able to lower their insulin load and get it to next to nothing and manage their sugar in their body without it running 140, 150, or having a 5.7 or 6.5, or I've seen some really high hemoglobin A1Cs in my office, and instead of running that high level of inflammation, again, things we look at when we're evaluating blood work, we can see through C-reactive protein, an inflammatory fire marker. We can see through liver enzymes, AST, ALT, GGT, all these different markers that we look at and make sure that they're in what we call the fine window, the window of high level efficiency. We don't want to be in a low level efficiency state. We want to be high level efficiency, because it's then when we'll start seeing a change in the extracellular water and total body ratios on your in-body. So we put all this stuff together for you to help you see why your body's been breaking down over the years and why you're suffering the way you're suffering, and so that we know that you're not making this stuff up and you're not crazy. Nobody wants to think that they're crazy and that their ails aren't legitimate and that their situation isn't validated. People want to be heard, and people need to know that there are legitimate reasons your body is feeling the symptom patterns that it is. Well, at Living Well, we're going to listen to that. And at Living Well, we're going to address those matters, and we're going to start moving you out of those bad habits that have put an opportunity for disease to set in, and we're going to start plucking those things out and releasing the life force of water, blood, and soul energy into the body tissues, so that the body in the nasty now and now in this earth suit can thrive. And that, my friend, is wellness. And at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're all about wellness. We're all about your longevity, your vitality, your vim, vigor, and vip, so that you live your best life every day, that you can be salt and light to the earth, that you can be salt and light to your influencing circle of friends, family, and loved ones. And we want you to know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you are worth it. You have a part to play, a very large part to play, in order to be your best. And again, could it be an essential nutrient like salt, an essential nutrient like water, an essential nutrient like the sunshine being available to us for next to nothing when in cost? These items are still very much on the lower end of expense, and they're the most underrated. We don't talk about them. Why? Well, there's no money in it. We're in a society where we're not trading salt anymore. But in the olden days, salt was traded at the same level as iron, silver, and gold. Dude, what are we doing? Do you realize, Gardy, and look how much gold is sitting right here in the studio with all this salt. You're ready to lick some, right? Aren't you?
I am.
If you had some cups this morning, we'd take a shot of it. And I'm telling you, it is amazing when you start getting your salt levels up.
Granular gold. Can we call it granular gold?
Granular gold. I like if you and I can go into business and start our own salt mining company, and we're going to call it Granular Gold. When we see granular gold start popping up on our feeds, we'll know, dang it.
It was already taken.
It was already taken, or we were a day late and $1 short.
Yep.
But hopefully it will be worth our salt in providing information for people to take this info by the horns and apply it. So we use this stuff at our office as Premier Research Labs out of Austin, Texas.
And they come out with other stuff
and
too,
they've
right?
got tons. They got local honeys, and they've got vegetable-based capsule products and vegetarian, vegan products.
There's something you put me on.
And I use a lot of products from these guys because, again, I have patients that are very, very sensitive to gluten and dairy, and people that are sensitive to animal proteins for this reason or that. So we have to find that we use many different tools. Tools help us get people better. Detox programs help us get people better. Cleansing programs for the heart or for your body tissues help deburden the body so that your body will get better faster. We use supplements, like when we talked about earlier with the guy that wants to do it through food. Hey, all power to you, as long as you do it, as long as you're working it. If you find that you're 70% of the time, your car's driving into the sad American diet land, then guess what? If you park there too long, you're going to be sick and ailed. But if you start using things like this, if you start coming in and letting us figure out what kind of infectious burdens are you carrying? Are you carrying a bacterial burden, a viral burden, a yeast burden, a parasitic burden? Yes, we can find and help you navigate all those things. And I assure you, you're going to feel better. Your brain's going to work better. Your brain to body balance is going to be where you're thinking and acting differently every day. And it's not going to be a crapshoot whether or not you get your work done today. It's going to be, hey, my cells are efficient. I got the sun on my back. I've got efficiency in my cells and a smile on my face. It's got to be good. Life has got to be good. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're always looking for ways to teach you and help you grow. And we always are teaching classes. We're in the beginning of December right now, and we know that detox season is right around the corner. And we have a great program set out for us this upcoming January. So we encourage you to start asking about our detox programs. We're already have patients stocked up, ready to go for their detox program. And so we want you to take advantage of that as well and make sure that you are tuned in, because we know that when people go through the detox experience together, they get better benefits. They get more. They stick with it. They are able to last, go the distance, and get all those benefits that we talk about: more energy, more mental clarity, weight loss, inches lost, just a deeper, better sleep, more productivity at the office. It is amazing what happens when we take these simple tools and apply them to a toxic world that is contaminating us as humans. And we have to take this information and apply it so that we're not burdened with all this stuff that is bogging us down. And so I hope that everybody has a great week. I hope that you come by and get some pink salt and know beyond a shadow of a doubt, 2 shakes and pray, and things will be okay. And this is Dr. Chapa at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center.
Don't forget, you can go back and listen to this episode. It'll be posted almost immediately today on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast and get that information from. You can search Just Live Well. You can also search Dr. Chapa, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. Just find it and subscribe. You only have to find it one time, and then you subscribe, and it's going to come straight to you every week. Y'all be blessed. Thank you, Dr. Chapa.
You bet. See you next week.